Walk into an old valley in the middle of Asia, and the first thing you meet boasts breathtaking landscapes featuring deep sapphire blue natural lakes and a tower more than 200 feet tall, standing alone in an empty gorge where almost no one lives. The first place this country ever put on the world's heritage map. Farther north, a shrine glows in tiles the color of a summer sky, wrapped in white doves. Hand-knotted carpets hang in doorways like frozen gardens. And then you notice it. In street after crowded street, in market after market, there are almost no women. A land the world knows only as Taliban-controlled, only through the lens of war. Yet the same men who keep their own wives out of sight will pull a total stranger inside, feed him, and guard him with their lives. So where are the women? And what kind of country hides this much behind a single headline? Let's walk through the wall. Start with the ground itself, because in Afghanistan, the ground decides almost everything. Running across the country like a spine is the Hindu Kush, a mountain wall roughly 500 miles long, splitting the rivers that flow north from the rivers that flow south. Its peaks climb past 24,000 feet, and it does something stranger than just stand there. This range sits exactly where the Indian plate is grinding into Asia, which makes it the most active source of deep earthquakes on the planet. The earth here shudders from 100 miles down, again and again. A land broken into that many pieces is hard to hold. Maybe that's why so many armies came, and so many left. People call Afghanistan the graveyard of empires, a nickname, worth saying honestly, that historians argue over, since plenty of empires did rule here for a long time. Still, the roll call is real. Alexander the Great passed through, so did the Mongols. The British marched in during the 1800s and, in one winter retreat from Kabul in 1842, lost almost their entire column of some 16,000 soldiers and camp followers. The Soviets came in 1979 and left 10 years later. A US-led coalition came in 2001 and left in 2021. The mountains don't just repel armies, they shape a life. Because the high country between the rivers is desert, most Afghans live packed into narrow green valleys along the water, their houses climbing the dry slopes so the precious flat land can grow food. Kabul itself sits at nearly 6,000 feet, one of the highest capital cities on Earth. And tucked in the Hindu Kush is a place few outsiders have ever seen. Band-e-Amir, 6 lakes of impossible deep blue, held back not by concrete, but by natural walls of mineral stone the water builds for itself. It became the country's first national park in 2009. This film has traveled a long way from those valleys to reach you. So tell us in the comments, what city, what country are you watching from? We'd love to see how far across the planet this has spread. Now here is the part that catches most visitors off guard. In a place the outside world files under danger, a stranger is treated like a gift. Among the Pashtun, this isn't just good manners. It's written into an unwritten code called Pashtunwali, and one of its pillars is Melmasja, the duty to welcome any guest of any race, religion, or country, and to ask nothing in return. There's a harder rule beside it called Nanawatai. If someone in trouble comes to your door and asks for shelter, you must give it and defend them, even at the cost of your own life. Why would a poor household spend what little it has on a person it just met? Because in a land this harsh, hospitality isn't decoration, it's insurance. A world where anyone might one day be the exhausted traveler at your gate only works if everyone keeps the door open. You see the same logic in the fields. There's an old custom called ashar, where the whole village turns out unpaid to bring in a neighbor's harvest or rebuild a house or clear a clogged irrigation channel, though even Afghans say it's fading now. Step inside a home and the welcome has a smell. Someone lights a handful of seeds from the wild rue plant on a bed of hot coals. They crackle and pop, and a fragrant smoke is waved around your head to carry off the evil eye. The ritual is older than Islam here, reaching back to the region's Zoroastrian past. And almost always, before anything else, there is tea. Green tea, poured again and again. The real opening ceremony of any Afghan room. And yet, walk back out into that welcoming market, full of open faces, and the thing no brochure mentions is still true. The women are missing. So where are they? Long before them, much of Afghan life ran on purdah, the custom of keeping women out of public view, screened behind veils and courtyard walls. It goes back centuries, woven through Persian culture, and in the countryside, it never really left. That is the wall you are already half seeing in the market, not painted on anything, but real. The second layer is recent, and it is the law. After the Taliban returned in 2021, secondary schools reopened for boys and stayed shut for girls. By late 2022, women were barred from universities too. Roughly 100,000 students turned away at the gate. By most accounts, Afghanistan became the only country on earth that forbids girls a secondary education. Then, in August 2024, came a formal vice and virtue law. Under it, according to the United Nations, a woman's voice should not be heard in public, her face and body must be fully covered, and she should not travel far without a male guardian. The UN Human Rights Office said the law aimed to erase women into silent, faceless shadows. Here is the paradox that breaks people who watch this country. The same culture that will die to protect a stranger at the door keeps half of its own people behind that door. A guest gets the seat of honor. A daughter loses her classroom. Both things are true at once, and neither cancels the other. This is the hardest fact in the film, and it deserves to be sat with, not skipped. Does knowing all of this change how you see Afghanistan, or not? Tell us honestly in the comments. We read them. And if you feel this is a story more people should see, tap the hype button below. Each hype lasts only a few seconds, but it helps this reach a wider audience. We'd be grateful. Analytical, informative. Afghanistan was never one people. It's a mosaic. The Pashtun are the largest group, spread mostly across the south and east, keepers of that honor code. The Tajiks speak Dari, a form of Persian, and gather in the north and west around old cultural cities like Herat. The Hazara, mostly Shia Muslims with their own distinct features, hold the central highlands. Uzbeks and Turkmen fill the north. Nobody knows the exact numbers. There hasn't been a trusted census in decades, but Pashtuns are usually put near 40%, Tajiks around a quarter, and no group holds a clear majority. Why so many peoples in one place? Look back at those mountains. A land carved into isolated valleys keeps each community with its own tongue, its own memory. It also kept some of them apart the hard way. The Hazara, in particular, were conquered and heavily oppressed in the 1890s, and, according to minority rights group, massacred by the thousands at Mazar-e-Sharif in 1998. There's a word that tells you how Afghans actually locate themselves, and it isn't ethnicity. It's Qawm, your web of solidarity, built from kin or where you're from or what you do. An Afghan will name his Qawm before his nation, and a Qawm can cut right across ethnic lines. Disputes inside and between these networks often go to a jirga, a council of elders who talk a problem through until they reach agreement, no judge required. And under it all runs a strict idea of honor. Nang, the pride of a family, and namus, the honor tied to protecting it. Concepts an outsider can misread, but which hold this whole social fabric together. You feel that mosaic most clearly in the bazaar. Down one narrow lane in Old Kabul, behind a blue-tiled mosque, is Ka Faroshi, the city's oldest bird market. Walk in, and the sound arrives before the sight. Canaries, finches, larks, pigeons, all singing at once from stacked cages along mud walls. For many Afghans, keeping a bird isn't a hobby, it's a habit passed down for generations, a small pocket of calm in a hard life. One seller kept dozens of pigeons on a doctor's advice, just to steady his mind. The bazaar sells the mountains, too. From the far northeast comes lapis lazuli, that deep royal blue, dug from a mine so old it's among the longest worked gem sources on Earth. It's the same stone that colored jewelry in ancient Sumer and paint in Renaissance Florence, hauled from a seam so remote it opens only a few months each summer. There are the carpets, hand-knotted by close to 1 million Afghans, most of them women working at home. It's the country's second biggest export after farming. And there's bread. In nearly every neighborhood, a baker keeps a clay oven, a tandoor, hot all day, and families bring their own dough to be baked, the loaf itself a small act of community. But the real heart of an Afghan home isn't the market, it's the tablecloth. And one dish rules every table. It's called Kabuli Palaw, and it's the national dish. Picture a mound of steamed rice, and buried in it, tender lamb. Then over the top, carrots caramelized to threads of sweetness, dark raisins, and often almonds or pistachios. It began in the well-off households of Kabul, the families who could afford to dress plain rice up like this. And it's still the dish you serve when you want to honor a guest. Around it comes the rest. Naan from that clay oven, and dumplings, mantu, filled with spiced meat under a garlicky yogurt, and ashak, folded around leeks for a special day. Kebabs turn over open flames in the street, and through all of it, more tea. The fruit here deserves its own line. Afghan melons were once so prized that the Mughal Emperor Babur, 5 centuries ago, is said to have wept while eating one sent from Kabul, the taste of a homeland he'd left behind. Grief over a melon. The pomegranates of Kandahar are still ranked among the finest anywhere. It tells you something that a place the world pictures as barren grows fruit worth crying over. That same generosity turns a wedding into an event. Afghan weddings can run to hundreds of guests, so many that lawmakers once tried to cap the list at 500 just to save families from ruin. Men and women usually celebrate in separate halls. The night belongs to the Atan, the national dance, a fast spinning circle that forms around a booming drum. And there's the henna night, the kina, when the bride's hands are painted and the women dance on their own. One custom is worth explaining because it's easy to get wrong. Islamic law calls for a mahr, a payment made directly to the bride, hers to keep. But an older tribal practice, walwar, sends money instead to the bride's family, the difference between honoring a woman and pricing one. Of everything so far, the mountains, the welcome, this kind of wedding, what struck you the most? Tell us in the comments. Eight. What they wear. What people wear tells its own story. A man's traditional outfit is the Parahan tunban, a long tunic over loose trousers, and often a patu, a woolen shawl that doubles as blanket and ground cloth. On his head might sit a pakol, the soft wool cap that became a symbol far beyond fashion. It was the cap of Ahmad Shah Massoud, the resistance commander known as the Lion of Panjshir, assassinated 2 days before the 9th of September attacks. For women in conservative areas, there's the chadari, the full body covering with a mesh grill to see through, usually pale blue. In 2022, the Taliban ordered women to cover completely in public again. But clothing here also carries a memory of how different things once were. Look at photographs of Kabul in the 1960s and 70s, and you'll find middle-class women in the city in Western dress, some in skirts, walking to university, uncovered. That was real, but it was urban Kabul, a thin slice of the country, while most rural women still lived by purdah. The point isn't that Afghanistan was once free and is now not. It's that the country has always held several centuries at the same time, in the same borders. Now, to understand what Afghans love, watch what happens on a winter Friday in the north. Riders gather by the dozens on horseback around a chalk circle. Their prize sits in the middle, not a ball, but the headless carcass of a calf, weighing anywhere from 60 to over 100 pounds. This is Buzkashi. The name means goat grabbing, and it is the national sport, and there is nothing else on earth quite like it. The rules are brutal and simple. A rider has to lean from a galloping horse and haul that carcass off the ground. Then he carries it around a distant flag while dozens of men try to rip it from his grip and drops it inside the chalk ring, a target they call, without irony, the circle of justice. You can't tie the carcass to your saddle. You hold it by hand, or pin it under a leg, or lose it. No weapons, no biting, no pulling another man's reins, and beyond that, almost anything goes. Only the finest riders even reach the carcass. They're called chapandas, and the best of them are past 40, hardened by decades. Local heroes with the standing of champions. But here's the thing the crowd will tell you. The man is only a fifth of it. The horse is the rest. A Buzkashi horse is trained for years to be fast, fearless, and merciless in a scrum. And a good one can be worth a small fortune. One famous mount was valued at $20,000. Warlords have sponsored these games as shows of power, handing the winner a fistful of dollars, and once, the keys to a brand new truck. The Taliban banned Buzkashi in the 1990s as un-Islamic. It came roaring back. Some things a mountain people will not give up. (10) Nowruz. If Buzkashi is Afghanistan's wildest celebration, Nowruz is its gentlest. This is the Persian New Year, marked at the spring equinox around the 21st of March, and it opens the solar calendar Afghanistan runs on. It's astonishingly old. People have kept Nowruz for more than 3,000 years, and UNESCO recognizes it as a treasure of human heritage. In Mazar-e-Sharif, near that blue shrine, the season brings the Red Tulip Festival, 40 days of celebration as wild tulips flush the surrounding hills. Farmers pour into the cities for a kind of harvest fair to show off what they've grown, and families set out the haft mewa, 7 dried fruits and nuts soaked together in their own syrup. But even the new year now sits under the wall. The Taliban have dropped Nowruz from the list of official holidays, and in 2025 they blocked the traditional flag raising in Kabul. People are not stopped from marking it quietly at home, yet with music banned and women kept out of parks, a festival built on public joy has quietly shrunk. Behind the headlines, there is scenery the world simply never sees. We started at Bandi Amir, those 6 blue lakes. Now at the valley of Bamiyan, where 2 giant Buddhas, one 180 feet tall, were carved into a cliff more than 1,000 years ago. The Taliban blew them apart in 2001, leaving 2 empty niches that UNESCO now guards as World Heritage. Reach for the far northeast and you find the Wakhan Corridor, a thin finger of land stretching all the way to China, where nomadic Kyrgyz herders live above 13,000 feet, among the most isolated people on the planet. There's the Panjshir Valley, ringed by snow peaks, famous both for its emeralds and for never quite being conquered. And there's the Selong Pass, cutting over the Hindu Kush near 12,700 feet. Its Soviet-built tunnel, once the highest road tunnel in the world. This is the part of the country that dies in the caption, war-torn. It's some of the most spectacular landscape on Earth, hidden in plain sight behind a single word. Most Afghans, though, live off the land, and how they get water is a quiet marvel. In a country this dry, farmers tap the mountains through the Karez, an ancient underground channel that carries snowmelt for miles by gravity alone, losing almost nothing to the sun. A single survey counted nearly 7,000 of them, watering well over 160,000 hectares. Why go underground? Because on the surface, this heat would drink the water before it ever reached a field. It's engineering 3,000 years old, still feeding villages today. Some of what grows here is remarkable. Around Herat, farmers raise saffron, the most expensive spice on earth. It takes something like 150,000 flowers to make a single kilogram, and Herat alone produces more than 90% of Afghanistan's crop, judged among the best in the world. And moving across the highlands are the Kuchi, roughly 1.5 million nomads who follow their herds with the seasons and own most of the country's camels. A people, in other words, who turned some of the harshest ground on the planet into a home. But it would be dishonest to leave you only with beauty. Today's Afghanistan is also a country in crisis, and the numbers are hard. Start with the one that surprises people. Afghanistan was long the world's opium supplier, and after the Taliban banned the crop in 2022, poppy cultivation collapsed by about 95% in a single year. It has stayed roughly 93% below where it was, according to the UN. A trade that fed addictions across the planet, nearly gone, almost overnight. The rest of the ledger is grim. After the government fell in 2021, the economy shrank by close to 1/3. For 2026, the UN estimates that about 22 million people, nearly half the country, need humanitarian aid to get through the year.
Translate that. In almost every other household, someone is waiting on food or medicine that may not arrive. Roughly 65% live in severe poverty, and the health system is thin to the point of danger. For every 10,000 people, there are only about 10 health workers, when the safe standard is closer to 44. It's part of why a mother here dies in childbirth at one of the highest rates on Earth. Behind each figure is a body and a family, doing the arithmetic of survival.
And yet the deepest thing this land has been isn't a war zone at all. It was a crossroads. For centuries, Afghanistan sat at the heart of the Silk Road, where caravans from China met the roads to Persia and India. Balkh, in the north, is called the Mother of Cities, more than 2,500 years old, a cradle of the Zoroastrian faith, taken by Alexander the Great around 330 BC. Herat, in the west, became a jewel of the Timurid Empire, its great mosque and towering minarets pulling in artists from across the known world. Just outside Kabul lies Mes Aynak, an entire Buddhist city over 2,000 years old, sitting on top of one of the largest copper deposits on Earth. And that royal blue lapis? Egyptian pharaohs wore it. It lined the tomb of Tutankhamun. The color of ancient kings was mined from these mountains. If this has shown you a different Afghanistan than the one in the headlines, and left you moved by the warmth of its people, like and subscribe, and we'll take you inside another country the world tends to misjudge. We be grateful. From this same soil came one of the most beloved poets who ever lived. Rumi was born near Balkh in 1207, and as a boy, his family fled more than 2,000 miles west to escape the Mongols, carrying with them a voice the whole world would one day read. Centuries earlier, in the same region, a woman named Rabia Balkhi is remembered as the first poet to write in Persian. This is a nation of poets as much as fighters. And it is astonishingly young. The middle age in Afghanistan is around 17. Nearly 2 out of 3 people are under 25. Whatever this country becomes, it will be built by people who have known almost nothing but hardship, and who, if you ask them, describe themselves in 3 words: welcoming, honest, proud. So walk back out through the wall one last time. On one side, a place the world has flattened into a single, frightening word. On the other, blue lakes and poets, riders and saffron. A stranger fed like a king, and a daughter kept from her classroom. Both sides are real. The mountains that trap this country also protect it. The door that opens for a guest closes on a wife. Afghanistan doesn't ask you to approve of it. It asks something harder. It asks you to notice that the line you call normal, who gets seen, who gets to speak, who gets to leave the valley, was drawn somewhere by someone for reasons that felt as obvious to them as yours do to you. The women behind that wall can still be heard if the rest of us keep listening.